This is National Chess Master Rats at chess.com, continuing my video series on the correspondence team match played between my video lessons group and the team CARPE DIEM. This was played on board 114 of 210 boards. Our man is Daquiles, and he's playing SARBANANDA. Our rating advantage about mid 1700s versus high 1500s. And let's have a look at the two games. We have the Scotch game, and here black comes up with a very interesting variation. It's all book, and I'm not familiar with all the lines, but one thing that black is trying to do obviously is give a checkmate, and this preserves the option to take back the knight and not get some double pawns, because white needs to deal with the checkmate. And I'm not sure what the best move here is for white, but the move he does play does block his bishop in. And if he puts the queen on e2, he's blocking the other bishop in. Is that a bad thing? Well, yes and no. Black needs to regain the piece. White can still get castled soon enough and complete his development. Now, the move I would be expecting would be queen takes c6, avoiding the double pawns, yet black immediately is willing to accept them for rapid development. So it's similar pawn structure to what we'll find in a Ruy-Lopez exchange variation. Difference being this pawn isn't here, although it's going to find its way there, I think. But black's doing well here. He's got two pieces out, open lines. White has no weaknesses in his position. The game is about even. And here white plays bishop d3 over protecting his e4 pawn. I would think bishop c4 would be a more active square. Black develops the knight. And here black makes the decision that he wants to castle queenside. And so what this does is this signifies the choice that what black wants to do is launch a pawn storm against the enemy king. That's what black's wanting to do. And logically, white should be now getting ready to launch his pawn storm, and whoever comes up with a more creative attack is going to win. Yet white obviously didn't take his time, and this game is going to deteriorate down to nothing after his next move. The move he makes, it looks logical for a reason, but it's not backed up by analysis, which you will see. White looks and says, well, you want to attack me? I don't want you to attack me. Let's trade queens. I've trapped your queens. So were this a king, it would be a checkmate, right? Well, it's not a king, but it is a queen, and the queen can't escape a queen trade. But there's a major flaw in the plan, which you've probably already seen. Since we can't avoid a queen trade, let's take it. And look what we have here. The queen was protecting the bishop on d3, and it's no longer on the board, so black wins a piece. And that's the game. White plays on, but there's basically no hope. It's just really nothing to it. I'll run through the moves. White just carefully, black slowly, carefully exploits his advantage. Here's the Ruy-Lopez pawn structure I was talking about. Well, black just never gives white a chance here, and as the pieces are coming off, that makes it even more difficult for white to come back and try anything in this game. And like I say, we'll just run through the moves here. Here, this forces off more pieces off the board, and there goes a pawn. And now the a5 pawn is doomed, although black doesn't collect it for a while. White has a passed pawn, but it's not enough. The black king is close, and black has an extra piece. Black just plays carefully and decides you're not going to push your f pawn. And now white says, well, I'm going to push it. And here black finds an interesting move, although after bishop c2 he should be completely winning. Plays nice c4. The idea is if you take the bishop on e6, black collects the knight on e3. The black king is close enough to stop the pawn on e6, and black will soon promote a pawn. And white continues to play on a little bit, but really to no avail. And black protects that h-pawn. White shoves his pass pawn, but guess what? It's not going any further. And off to the races goes the pawn, and white decides to resign here. Okay, let's bring up the other game. Well, let's clear this first. Let's cancel that. Reset. Flip board. I'll paste the game. I always wonder what move number it's going to start it at. It's supposed to start at move 1. Hey, look, it did it for once. Okay. Scandinavian defense. Now, the normal move is queen a5. There is a lot of analysis on putting the queen back on d8, and black kind of plays it Caro-Kann style, which is what happens here, but black opts to shut his bishop in. Okay, so they just develop their pieces for a little bit, and once again we get opposite side castling, so we can expect the pawn storms, and we didn't see it last game because white dropped a piece. But we're going to see it this game. And I wouldn't necessarily trade that knight on d5. Why activate that a diagonal for this bishop? I mean, that's just my choice. You want to think about these things when you make exchanges. And you can just leave the bishop there. If black takes it, that improves the position of the white queen, right? Why not maybe just swing a rook into play? Think development. These are ways you can get head starts in the position. It's just like running a race. The runners start out in equal positions from the finish line, but as you can move your starting block up 10 meters or move everybody's back 10 meters. That's going to give you a nice advantage. So develop your pieces, folks. Don't worry so much about a bishop. See, a bishop is being better than knight usually only happens in the end game, and it has to be one of those positions which I've talked about many times. Stoltz cashed in The Hague 1928, where Kashtan proved the bishop beats the knight at the ending when you have pawns on both sides of the boards. Well, how many times when you pick up the bishop pair, do you actually win that end game? I ask those people that like to grab bishops or preserve them, how often do you win or lose those endings? And the answer is you never did. Okay, maybe once. All right. But knight takes, activates the light squared bishop. Now here's that move I've been Here's that move I've been criticizing all these times in all these videos. What's the point of h3 here? Well, the point of h3 is to stop this move. Well, that's what my whole video blog was. Players like to play these moves with the intention of stopping knights and bishops from reaching these squares because of the pins and the forks they can employ. Well, it makes sense if white's planning a pawn storm, which is what white's going to do. But, just let the pin happen. Let's come back to what I was suggesting earlier. Develop a piece. If you, well, wait a minute. I have to back h3 up. Develop the piece, okay? Get this rook on an open file. And if he goes to threaten double your pawns, well, really, is it that bad if you get double pawns? Don't you want an open file? Or couldn't you now maybe play knight e5 and attack that bishop since you've broken the pin? Now your knight is better placed. You're maybe inducing black to weaken himself, driving it out. Piece movement, okay? So, but h3 is entirely playable. It does take the g4 square away from the knight. From the bishop. But anyway. Bishop goes to e6, and now comes g4. Here comes the pawn storm. And both sides are going to misplay the defense of the pawn storm. Okay? You want to keep your pawns in front of your king intact. If you advance any of them, you bring the inevitable exchange of a pawn all that closer. Again, it's like that starting block rule. Where do you want to set the starting block up? The game of chess, the starting blocks are even. Do you want it to move up 10 yards or back 10 yards? What do you want to do? Okay. Well, black plays g6, and that means that white's going to get h5 in much quicker. And so now white happily plays h4 and to get the h5 in, and look what happens. Oh, there's that pin that white's proceeded to lose a tempo with. Now you have to guard that knight. And here, I guess, just a little too quick. Here, I guess black didn't like that knight and made an unprovoked exchange. You don't have to take it. Question it. it might slow down h5. You have to analyze this. This is where you take your time and look at something. Okay, what I'm talking about specifically is, okay, let's do something else for black. Let's get his pawn storm rolling. Here, let's analyze this out. Question, can white play h5 now? And here's the idea behind it. The idea is you've opened up the h file, and now maybe move the knight and try to play on the h file, or maybe sacrifice the exchange. Okay, this gives white an extra minor piece on the board. The h5 pawn is probably doomed. The h file still opens up. This is something you sit down and you look at for a while. You try to evaluate. I can't evaluate this and prove whether this is a worthwhile sacrifice or not. But just look at how much fun you're going to have analyzing chess and how much you're going to learn about chess if you sit here and kind of play this position out on your own and see what you come up with. Well, that's how you analyze correspondence chess. No ifs, ands, or buts. I'm not saying it's a good move. Maybe it's not. How do we know? We don't know these things. The alternative is not to sacrifice the exchange. Let's put this knight. I don't want to put it on e5. That'll just trade more pieces. It might drop the g5 pawn. Let's put it on h4 for the let's put it on h4. Let's not put it on h4. I have a reason. Let's put it on h2. Okay, here comes the reason. Well, I guess we can't go there. We're going to drop a pawn. We're going to drop this g5 pawn. But my idea here is that by putting on an h2, I'm getting this h file open up. And I was thinking of maybe then being able to bring the knight in here. So maybe white needs to overprotect g5 first. And then let's let black make another pawn move. Here we go. Now let's try this. Now bishop takes, queen takes. Here comes another pawn move. And now knight g4. And who knows what's happening here. Actually, you don't want, maybe you don't want to play knight g4 yet. That g pawn is hanging. Maybe put the queen on e3. Let black run another pawn. Now you can put the knight on g4. Now you got threats of queen h3. To say, who knows what's going on here. King g7, queen h3, rook h8, queen check. It's something to analyze. How do you feel about playing white here? You've sacrificed a pawn for a potential attack here. Black's got a rook buried on h8. Now, this is how you analyze postal chess. So let's back her up to where we were when black took the knight on f3, which I think was a mistake. And, we don't know if white's going to play these lines, but these are ideas to help you learn how to play these lines, some strategies. Okay, so he took the knight, and now he does play a5. But you see here, white blunders, a3. It all comes back to this idea about the rook pawns. Why do you want to move your rook pawns? This is going to bring tension closer. Black is going to get b4 in soon enough and force some open lines, okay? And he does play b5 and gets his queen out. Now, has white lost the tempo here? I think, yeah, white's lost the tempo here. See? He could have gone to d3 immediately, right? Instead, he goes here. Maybe now that the queen's not on d8, well, when he goes to c3, he's not protecting g5. I was thinking something. But anyway, white's lost a tempo here and shouldn't be doing okay. The game seems about even. And finally, here comes h5, and black breaks with c5, getting his pawn storm going. And here white misses a simple win. Okay, bishop takes, rook takes, queen here, threatening the rook and threatening the pawn. This should win for white. White even has the sacrifice. That's a little more complicated. Rook takes h7. And then you can check with the queen. And black's in a pickle here. It probably needs to go to G7, but that's going to allow an eventual check on G8, and going to G8 is going to allow an eventual check on E6. So, White's given up the exchange here, but the exposed black king pretty much guaranteed White a win. But White missed that, and let's see, he didn't play bishop takes right away. He played queen here, threatening the knight and threatening H7, but black has a resource. And now the white attack is kind of petered out. It's just not there. And as pieces come off the board, it's pretty plain that white's not going to win this with a kingside attack. He's traded off too many pieces, and black's got all his weaknesses there covered. G6 and H7. And here comes the black attack. So white starts looking for exchanges. And here comes, like I say, here comes the attack. There's that tension I was talking about. And now they just swap off some more pieces. And the game is now theoretically a draw. But black is going to find a way to lose this. Now, what do you want to do when you're a rook and pawn ending? Well, you want to activate your rook. That's what white has done. Black's now passive, but he keeps it passive, but he was still holding. Black can sacrifice a pawn and activate his rook here very easily. Now, if rook takes, it should be a king and pawn draw. If rook takes, black is going to get his pawn back, and he's on the 7th rank. What do you want to do for white here? Play king b1 and keep this pawn. Now, you can always check back and get a repeat, or maybe try rook takes f2. This is just a simple path to a draw, because that's what really all either side can hope for here. But white finds or black finds a way to misplay this position. He doesn't play rook e8. He plays b3, and that's still okay. And he's just kind of marking his time here and not trying anything. But suddenly the white king is getting active, and black starts to get a little careless and start giving white chances. Now white's up a pawn. See the pawn that black pushed down to b3? Well, it's gone. But it still should be a draw. And this is a blunder. This allows white to play f4. And yet black is probably still theoretically okay, but he's still holding on. White is going to win a pawn here, but at least we have one thing. We have the black rook active, something I was saying earlier, but there's a difference now. White has 2 passed pawns, so it can get tricky. But black finds a way to bungle this. We'll see what happens. They repeat the position a little bit, but then white says no to a draw. Doesn't want to repeat a third time. And now black gets his little d pawn running for counterplay. And here, probably the smartest thing for black to have done was, well, this should still be good enough for a draw, but it's getting very theoretical, and you'd have to consult rook and pawn endings. I recommend one by Smyslov and Averbach. But black doesn't do his math here, and I'll explain that in a moment. How does math and chess work out? Well, it's real simple. There's a rule called counting and queening. Okay, rook takes, king takes, and the pawn is too far advanced. And black just didn't look at the position carefully enough. If he'd analyzed it out, he could have seen that pawn queening, but apparently he didn't analyze it out. Probably rushed his move, probably playing 30 games at once or more, and spends only a few seconds every move. But the quickest way is, let's count. Okay, 1. Okay, we know this is going to happen. 2. Wait, I'm sorry, let me start over. Okay, take here. Here's our second move. Now comes this third move. The king goes here. 4th. 5th. Don't make it. 6th. How many moves is white from queening after this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're not getting there in time. Because white's moving first from this position. So we can see this position in our head with white to move. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4. But white's getting there first. See, that's the difference. See, he tries, but our fourth, well, he could have played king d7. Our fourth move is making the queen, and black actually plays this out to checkmate, so I'll just kind of show those moves. But you can always just count, just like I showed, and not have to deal with analyzing. I go here, he goes there, I go here, he goes there. You can count it right out and see you don't have enough. And apparently that's something that black didn't do, and now he gets checkmated. Anyway, well played, Daquiles. I'm not sure if it's Daquiles or Daquiles. Better luck to you, SARBANANDA. And thanks everyone for watching. I'll be back as soon as I can with another video. Take care.